Now recognize Mr. Guy for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Ranking Member Crawford and Chairman DeFazio for holding this hearing today. It's an honor to be part of the panel. As you said, my name is Bob Guy. I serve as State Legislative Director in Illinois for Smart Transportation Division. Nationally, we have...
Can you pull your mic a little closer?
You bet.
All right, thank you.
Nationally, we represent 80,000 transportation workers, most of whom work in the passenger and freight rail operating crafts. As Congress undertakes reauthorization of the FAST Act, it is important to note that in 2015, and the first time in legislative history, intercity passenger rail and Amtrak reauthorization language were included as part of this comprehensive 5-year surface transportation reauthorization. In doing so, Congress laid the groundwork for the development of a truly multimodal transportation system. Congress should build on that momentum by increasing Amtrak funding levels, which allow for current operations to flourish and be able to plan for future growth throughout the entire network. There's no better way to accomplish those goals than having predictable, dedicated funding that will help preserve and grow the Amtrak authorization provisions in Title 11 of the FAST Act. As with all modes of transportation, long-term, robust, stable federal funding for Amtrak service and development is crucial to its success. We ask that Congress reauthorize and continue strong funding for Amtrak and the 3 rail grants created in the FAST Act. These grants, administered by the Federal Railroad Administration, would also greatly benefit state corridor service that has seen substantial ridership and revenue growth over the last decade. There's already a buzz in the Midwest with the announcement last week of FRA's Restoration and Enhancement Grant Fund availability of $24 million. These grants are successful and they work. The grants would also solidify Amtrak partnerships with states by preserving the reliable federal funding that is needed to expand and improve service along these successful corridors. Along with strong federal funding, Congress should also identify possible revenue streams solely for the use by Amtrak and intercity passenger rail projects that benefit state-supported service and the national network. State-supported corridor service should supplement, not replace, Amtrak's national network. Far too many rural communities would lose vital transportation service if long-distance service was reduced and/or eliminated. In the Midwest alone, we have seen modest ridership growth on the 8 long-distance routes that originate in the nation's largest rail hub of Chicago. We have 80 station stops in the Midwest, with many of them in rural communities not served by other reliable means of transportation. Long-distance service must be protected. As railroad workers, we want a strong rail industry, both freight and passenger. Our members and rail labor in general provide vital work that allows our economy to thrive and people to get to where they need to be in an environmentally friendly and safe fashion. Reauthorization must continue to ensure that strong worker protections are in place for those who perform core traditional railroad work. Congress must ensure worker protections provided under rail-specific statutes like the Railway Labor Act, Railroad Retirement Act, and the Railroad Unemployment Insurance Act remain intact. Rail workers are stakeholders in the industry, and these protections allow us to partner with Amtrak and states to help improve and expand service across the country. These worker protections are most important when considering risky privatization agendas that some might have. Permitting private companies to seize certain routes or segments of the Amtrak system would give investors the perceived authority to extract profits from assets paid for over many decades by American taxpayers and rail passengers. Freight railroads, who are the masters at generating revenue, couldn't make passenger rail profitable. It was crippling their freight network, which is why Congress created Amtrak some 40 years ago. Amtrak was established to save passenger rail service in America. Congress should allow Amtrak to be America's railroad and support their ability to maintain a qualified workforce that meets customers' demands now and well into the future. We also can't discuss reauthorization without talking about safety. Preserving and increasing the Amtrak authorization provisions in Title 11 of the FAST Act would allow continued elevation of safety levels across the Amtrak system. Along with new locomotives and passenger coaches, it would drive another ridership surge as younger professionals are driving less and seeking more environmentally and electronic device-friendly transportation options. Other points of priority for Amtrak reauthorization should be to allow Amtrak a private right of action to address a host railroad's handling of statutorily protected preferences for passenger rail. Amtrak needs to have more options when dealing with delays caused solely by a host railroad. Additionally, for many years, Amtrak has been forced to pay millions of dollars resulting from accidents occurring on other railroads, even though Amtrak was not negligent. When other railroads are responsible, those carriers should pay the damages, not Amtrak. This has added to the necessity for Congress to appropriate funds to keep Amtrak operating. We've included some legislative language in the written testimony that was submitted. Congress should also strongly consider adding a labor representative to the Amtrak Board of Directors. Railroad employees have a wealth of expertise on the needs for Amtrak. Having input from the rail labor stakeholders also would help Amtrak avoid making decisions that could negatively impact service or customers' needs. There's already a model on the federal level, and that's the Railroad Retirement Board, where you have a 3-member board consisting of labor, management, and a chairman. Reauthorization should also include a path forward to legislative address the disturbing and upward trend of assaults on passenger and commuter rail workers. Currently, our members are not offered any type of standard de-escalation or self-defense training by the carriers, nor do they receive any mandated counseling or psychological assistance post-incident. Mr. Regan noted the Illinois member that was shot in 2017. That brother's name was Michael Case. He was performing his duties at a station stop in Naperville, Illinois. And while that is an extreme example, we could probably fill the hearing room any day to hear about the assaults and attacks on passenger rail and commuter rail employees. There's also been some efforts already. As a result of that 27 incident, our own Illinois Senator Tammy Duckworth introduced the Passenger Rail Crew Protection Parity Act, and there is currently 2 pieces of transit employee assault legislation in both the Senate and the House. Such legislation could simply provide passenger and commuter rail crew members the same federal protections as airline crew members. Finally, Congress, when considering Amtrak reauthorization, must also take a hard look at the effects that longer freight trains and so-called precision scheduled railroading are having on passenger rail on-time performance. A recent Government Accountability Office report found that freight trains are 25% longer and a byproduct of PSR. Poor on-time performance costs Amtrak and state-supported service ridership, which in turn costs revenue. We have a corridor in Illinois where on-time performance sits below 30%. That's simply unacceptable. Public dollars, both federal and state, are invested into private host railroad infrastructure for the purpose of benefiting passenger rail, not the other way around. Congress needs to hold the host railroads responsible for their handling of passenger rail because the protection of public funds warrant it. Once again, thank you, and I'll be looking forward to answering any questions. Thank you.